Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Tresize. So that was a great biography of some of my background. I'm going to cover a little bit more in a moment here. But today I'd like to talk to you about the science of resistance training and plant-based nutrition for longevity. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen and bring up the show I have for you here. Perfect. So this is a topic that really excites me. It's been very much in the research lately. Resistance training, by and large, in the past has not gotten nearly as much scientific and medical attention as cardiovascular exercise. So for a gym rat / musclehead like myself, I'm very excited to see there's new publications coming out all the time that are showing profound health and physiological benefits of resistance training. Also, as many of the speakers in this conference are pointing out, plant-based nutrition has a very holistic and profound impact on every parameter of our health. So it's exciting to look at how these two fields are gaining more information over time and how you can use both of them to maximize your health, your lifespan, and your health span, which we're going to talk about today. So a little bit about myself. We just saw a great introduction video, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But my name is Derek Tresize, in case you guys missed that. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and I'm a certified personal trainer through the American Council on Exercise. I'm also a two-time professional natural bodybuilder through the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation and the Naturally Fit Federation. So I've had no problem as a vegan competing against athletes on an omnivorous diet and winning. So that's been very eye-opening, and I use it as a very, I feel, potent form of advocacy. Without having to say a word, if you just know you're vegan, people see that you can push your physique to the limit, you can build muscle and strength, you can lose body fat. And that's something that's been really important to me over the years. My wife and I authored the book Vegan Muscle and Fitness Guide to Bodybuilding Competitions, where we broke down, it's very much a blueprint on how to control your physique, how to gain muscle, how to lose body fat, how to manipulate nutritional and exercise variables. So it's a guide that gets you to the bodybuilding stage, but it's a guide that anyone could benefit from if you want to take a precise approach to your fitness and nutrition. So my wife and I also both own Root Force Personal Training, which is Richmond, Virginia, where we live's only plant-based gym. I work with clients here one-on-one and in small groups to help them achieve their best health and fitness. And we have the blog and fitness website, veganmuscleandfitness.com. So a little overview about what I want to discuss today. We're going to start discussing aging and nutrition, aging and longevity. What does it mean? What happens to our bodies as time passes? We're going to discuss resistance training, what it means, what impacts it has on our body, because our body has a myriad of adaptations when we perform regular resistance training or regular strength training, and the role that plant-based nutrition has in complementing or bolstering those effects on our physiology. Implementation, we're going to talk about resistance training specifically. Where do we start? What does the research say? What is the best place for someone to begin if their goal is a long, healthy life, not necessarily being a bodybuilder, not necessarily getting really big, really strong, but lifespan and also health span. And then we're going to talk about resources, references, the research I talk about today, and where you can go to find more information. And then we're going to have a Q&A period at the end. Now, looking at this picture here I shared, this was taken in 2017. My wife and I are the front and center there. But this was Team Plant Built, which is a vegan strength and muscle sports team that competes together. And that year we did very good. This was in Austin, Texas at the Naturally Fit show, where I placed second in that show. It was very fun. But just showing off some of our apparel from our website in this group photo. And I thought this was a fun photo to include here to show that we're not unique. I'm not unique. A lot of people can build a strong, fit, muscular body eating only plants. And so therefore it is not necessary to harm your health, the environment, or animals by consuming animal products to do so. All right, moving on. Aging is affecting all of us. From the point of conception, before you're ever even born, our body begins to age. Time passes, our gene expression gets less precise, and we start to accumulate free radical damage on our DNA. We start to lose length of our telomeres. There's a whole host of hallmarks of aging. But what does that mean on a macro scale? How does our body change over time? What will we notice? So some of the things we'll notice over time is we have an increased risk of virtually every disease and condition, except for those very few examples that occur in children specifically. Everything, the risk increases as time passes. Case in point, if you look at just about the most dangerous lifestyle habit you can have, which is smoking cigarettes, you could take someone who is a regular smoker at age 20, compare that to someone who does not smoke at all at age 70, and the 70-year-old's risk of lung cancer is actually higher than the 20-year-olds. So that 50 years of age is actually a greater risk factor for lung cancer than the 20 years of age but having the smoking habit. The aging is a very serious risk factor for virtually every health condition. We can also expect to lose 3 to 5% of our flexibility per decade after the age of 30. So our muscles get tighter, we get stiffer, it gets harder to reach around and buckle your seatbelt, things like that. It gets harder to touch your toes. And this may be something that you might already be noticing. Bone density. Our bones peak in strength and density in our mid-20s, like many physical attributes. And unless we do something to stimulate them, they're going to begin losing bone density thereafter. And that's going to continue to decline, and often at an accelerating rate as we go into old age in our 60s, 70s, and beyond. Our metabolic rate, which this can be a little bit confusing for some people because it's often assumed that your metabolism, how many calories you burn, how much energy you have, et cetera, is kind of a fixed number that's going to change as you age. It's more based on your lean muscle mass and your daily activity level. But since those decline as we age, particularly if we don't do something to counteract these things, we can expect a 10% decrease in metabolic rate per decade after the age of 20. So it happens younger than some of these other things. Now, these last three I want to highlight. These last 3 points about aging happen per year, not per decade. So this is much more rapid changes. We can lose up to 2% of our muscle mass per year after the age of 40. And that adds up very quickly. We can lose up to 5%, that's a big number, of our strength and our power per year after the age of 40. Power just means our ability to accelerate and decelerate. Can you speed things up? Can you throw things? Can you jump? Or can you land and absorb forces and decelerate? Those are both very, very important attributes for athletes, obviously, but also for catching yourself when you're about to fall, or for doing some more athletic daily tasks or yard work tasks, things like that. So strength and power are things that we start to lose very rapidly after the age of 40, unless we specifically work to counteract that. Now, as of 2021, in the US, the expected lifespan of a female is 79.3 years, and for a male, it's 73.5 years. So if we don't do things to counteract this, this is what we can help, or this is what we can expect given the standard American diet and lifestyle. This is how long we can expect to live, and these are the changes we can expect our body to go through. But it doesn't have to be this way. So this is a popular image I've seen on the internet numerous times, but it is from a study. And these are MRI photos. If you don't know what you're looking at, if you picture wrapping your finger around your thighs, wrapping your 2 hands around your thigh, and taking that cross-sectional slice in a picture so you can see what it looks like going through your thigh, that's what these images are, what's going on inside the thigh. So we can see at the 40-year-old triathlete, that white circle in the middle, that very bright white circle, is a nice, thick, dense, healthy bone. The gray material around it is thigh muscles, quadriceps, hamstring muscles. And then there's a very thin layer on the outside that is skin and subcutaneous body fat, which you need a little bit to be healthy. So you can see that's what a healthy, athletic, adult thigh looks like. Now, if you look at the bottom left, we have a 70-year-old sedentary man's thigh with the cross section. And right away, I point you to the bone in the center. The bone is noticeably smaller. It has shrunken both in circumference, and it's a fuzzy gray, which means it's less dense. It's not that nice, dense, bright white color. Around it, we have a lot less muscle. The muscle's darker, and it has those white bands, which are marbling of body fat penetrating into the muscle fibers. And once body fat starts to do that, it's actually much harder to get rid of it once it's penetrating the muscle fibers. And then we have this wide band of white tissue around the muscles, which is a lot of subcutaneous body fat. So this individual, after 30, 40, 50 years of being sedentary, not being physically active, they've lost a lot of bone density, a lot of muscle mass, and they've gained a lot of adipose tissue, a lot of body fat that they then have to carry around on this weaker frame with weaker muscles. That's a recipe for falls, injuries, and poor health. But as I said, it doesn't have to be this way. The bottom right thighs, you can see, are very, very similar to the 40-year-old triathlete, and they're a 70-year-old triathlete. Still have nice, dense bones, still have thick muscle mass with no infiltrated body fat, and I would say even less subcutaneous body fat around the outside. So with a lot of hard training and exercise consistently over years and years, you don't have to experience those declines that we mentioned in the previous slide. Upwards of 90% of them can be prevented. I have a couple cases in point for this argument that are more than just that slide. Jack and Joe. Jack LaLanne and Joe Rollino are some excellent examples of what fitness, strength training, and nutrition can do for you. So remember on that previous slide, I mentioned the average life expectancy for a male in the US right now is about 73.5 years. If you average these two gentlemen's lifespan, they lived 100 years. So a full 25% more than that. Jack LaLanne, if you guys haven't heard of him, he's a very famous fitness advocate with TV show, books, guest appearances, crazy exercise stunts for years and years. Jack LaLanne was a fixture in the fitness industry when Arnold Schwarzenegger was touching weights for the first time. So he started well before and was promoting these things for a long, long time. His focus was whole foods, so especially plant foods, but he was pescatarian, so he ate some dairy, some fish, but lots of fruits and vegetables. His kind of catchline slogan was, if man makes it, don't eat it. So he was one of the very first people to espouse kind of the dangers of processed food. He specifically focused on avoiding meat and avoiding sugar if you want to live a long and healthy life. He did crazy workout stunts. He would do these long swimming challenges for every decade birthday. Where he lived in San Francisco, he would swim across the San Francisco Bay, shackled and handcuffed like an escaped inmate. And as he got older, he would start pulling boats while he was swimming across the bay with people in them. And this was to show you that he was still strong, healthy, and fit for these extreme athletic events into his 70s, 80s, and beyond. He had a daily regimen of strength training for 1 hour and swimming for 1 hour for over 70 years. He did this from his 20s until his 90s. And he was unfortunately killed by pneumonia a few years ago at the age of 96. A cool story about Jack is he started weightlifting in high school. When he began high school, it was very unpopular. There's a couple of senior kids who had a weight set and they wouldn't let him use it. He asked to use it and they said he was too puny. So he challenged him to a wrestling match. He's like, if I can beat both of you at a wrestling match, then I get to use your weights. They agreed. He whipped him and he got to use the weights. So he started weightlifting when he was in his early teens and he never stopped. Joe Rollino was from New York. I believe he lived in Brooklyn, but he was a lifelong strict vegetarian. He often wrote about not eating any meat products. He was a strong man way back in the 1920s. He had crazy feats of strength. He would walk around with a bar across his shoulder with 4 or 5 men hanging from the bar. He could bend a quarter in half with his fingers. He was always also a champion boxer. He was a bodyguard for a period of time. He fought in World War II and was awarded 3 different Purple Hearts. If you guys have seen the movie Forrest Gump, the scene where Forrest Gump in Vietnam is pulling wounded soldiers out of the battleground by carrying them on his shoulder, Joe Rollino did that in real life, but he would get 2 or 3 men at a time. And he went back several times to some of these battlegrounds, pulling out several wounded men at once because he was so powerful, so strong. Even though he was not a big guy, he was 5'5" or 5'6". But that was how he was awarded some of these awards. And at the age of 104, he was unfortunately struck by a van crossing the street. So he was still fit and active at that point. A couple parallels I want to draw between these two guys. They both started strength training at a young age and kept training for their whole life. They both worked hard and were strong. They also both liked swimming, especially in the ocean, although we're not going to talk about any kind of benefits or risks inherent in swimming today. And they were both fit and active until the day they died. I want to really make this point important because it's hard to tease out things that increase maximum lifespan, especially with anecdotal evidence such as these two gentlemen. But you can easily look at their health span. Jack LaLanne was killed by an infection at the age of 96. Joe Rollino was killed in an automobile accident at the age of 104. They were killed from external problems, essentially, rather than the deterioration of their body over time. They did not have chronic disease. They were not suffering from diabetes. They didn't have any of these neurological or other chronic conditions that a lot of people suffer from. They were fit and healthy. Jacqueline, for example, doing a hard strength training and a hard swim workout every single morning into his 90s. And he was able to do that. He kept that level of physical fitness and that health until just before he died. Joe Rolino, just before he died in his 100s, could still bend a dime in half with his fingers. He couldn't do a quarter anymore. He laughed about it, but he could still bend a dime in half. So by maintaining this level of activity, this level of strength, they were able to enjoy being that active just about until the day they died. So their health span and their lifespan both increased. They weren't old and sick. They were old and vital and fit and able to do what they wanted.